First, Canelo Crawford was on, then Canelo and Crawford was off, then Canelo and Jake Paul was on, and now Canelo and Crawford is back on. Thank goodness. What a rocky 2 days. I want to talk about this. Let's dive in. The dedicated boxing fans were shaken when the Ring magazine had put out an article that the Canelo vs Crawford fight was over and was cancelled and was not going to happen. And then all the speculation began. Canelo was going to fight Jake Paul, and it looked like that deal maybe could have happened. Maybe they were in negotiations. It's unclear. Jake Paul says they were. However, Canelo hasn't confirmed anything. And apparently Jake Paul's floating around a contract that Canelo signed. But I don't know if that's the legit contract for them to fight or a contract for something else. And also, I don't know in terms of the contract if there's a cooling off period as well. So even if you did sign, normally there's a cooling off period to give you time to reflect and think about it and then think, wait, I don't want to fight Jake Paul. Tear it up. So after all the speculation that Canelo was going to fight Jake Paul, out of nowhere, Turki Al-Sheikh releases a video stating that Canelo will have 4 fights in the Riyadh season. 2 this year and 2 next year. We already know the 2 that are happening this year. I'm not too sure what fights are happening next year, but let's talk about the fights we do know. So the first fight will be on the date that was assumed to be the fight against Jake Paul, but he will be fighting instead William Skull. And looking at some of William Skull's highlights, he looks like he's going to be very outclassed. However, there's a reason for Canelo taking this fight against William Skull. William Skull has the IBF title, so Canelo is going to regain the undisputed classification once he beats William Skull. I guess you could say if he beats William Skull, but I'm pretty sure he will. And then that will lead into the Canelo Crawford fight, which will make it an undisputed super middleweight title clash. So this makes it even more epic. So William Skull recently took on Vladimir Shishkin, and in that fight, to me, just looking at the highlights, it seems as though William Skull was very lucky to come away with the points decision. And in that fight, it kind of displayed how out of his depth William Skull is walking into the Saul Canelo Alvarez fight. I think he's going to be very outclassed, and it may last 1 to 3 rounds in my opinion. I'd be impressed if it lasts up to 6 rounds, and I'd be even more impressed if it lasts the whole 12 rounds. That's how outclassed I think this guy is compared to Canelo. But hey, this is boxing, and anything... Actually, no. Canelo's definitely going to win this one. But like I said, this fight is just to grab that belt, the IBF super middleweight belt, and go on to Crawford and make that fight an undisputed super middleweight title clash. However, when it comes to Crawford, it seems like he's not going to have a lead-up fight in the super middleweight division, which is, I guess, even more risky for Crawford. He's not even going to have a fight in that division, so he's not even going to have a feel-out fight and get used to that weight division. So jumping straight in with Canelo, I think that gives Canelo even more of an advantage. But as I mentioned in my previous video, I think that Canelo has to knock Crawford out. He could potentially beat him on points. It depends how Crawford goes in the super middleweight division. Depends how that weight, that extra weight, affects him. But if he's still as classy as he is in the lower classes, then I think it's going to be a tough challenge for Canelo to beat Crawford via points. Not impossible, but it's going to be a tough ask, I think. So they're the 2 fights that are scheduled for Canelo this year under Turki Al-Sheikh. However, we move on to 2026 with unknown opponents. So who are these opponents going to be? We can only speculate, but I'm hoping, in my mind, it could potentially be David Benavidez. Turki Al-Sheikh is one to make the fights that the people want to see. So I'm hoping that he's trying to line up this fight. This is all going to depend on what happens in the light heavyweight division with David Benavidez. Will he get a shot at undisputed versus Beterbiev or Bivol? That is going to be the big determining factor of whether Canelo will fight David Benavidez. This is just speculation and kind of hope, but Turki Al-Sheikh may potentially line that up. If all the stars align, then who knows? We might see a Benavidez versus Canelo fight in 2026. And I would be guessing it would be the 4th fight, the last fight for Canelo under Turki Al-Sheikh in 2026. But it's still a long way away, so who knows? Who knows who those other 2 opponents could be in 2026? But I'm sure they'll be good ones. Because as Turki Al-Sheikh has mentioned, he's focused on Canelo's legacy. And I think he understands that Canelo doesn't have much longer left in this game. So he wants the biggest fights for Canelo. So this is good for boxing fans. And I'm looking forward to the fights this year for Canelo and also the 2026 fights next year. So as always, what are your thoughts about Canelo, this whole debacle, the Jake Paul thing, and then the Crawford-Canelo fight being back on? Are you excited about these 2 fights coming up and the 2 fights next year? Let me know whatever your thoughts are around this Turki Al-Sheikh, Jake Paul, Canelo Alvarez debacle. And until next time, peace out.
Myths in boxing, highlight reels mean. Front row seats to the blow by blow scene.